Morning. This is your professor in regards to career exploration in psychology. Welcome all of you again. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad you're all participating. One of the big things that I'm looking at is always discussion questions. Um, I think there's been some confusion and also some concerns. One of the things I'm always looking at is feasibility. Within that, I open them up. Primarily the next day. So let's see, Tuesday by midnight is when the responses are due. That's responses, not the postings. The post and the response are two different things. The posting is you interpreting the information. That's your perspective. That's everything that you've interpreted in regards to. That would be you, or say for example, for this week. So we're on week 4 right now. So that'd be you answering the questions of what are the tips for successful interviewing in the article and title. That's where you're going to interpret that. And then number 3, what are the things that are happening, things that can get you fired. I think that's one of the things that we always have to look at is the aspect of looking at your professionalism. I think that's one of the big things you're always looking at. A lot of individuals, right from the gate, I've met a lot of professionals that initially go into counseling or even in that field, and the very first week they started working, and again, this is primarily just from actual individuals that I've worked with, and the very first week, they primarily, how would you call it? They start trying to make too many changes too quickly, and at times it can result in that individual getting fired. Within that, you do not want to do that. Does that mean that this tests your level of ethicality and your levels of professionalism? No. One of the big things you're also looking at is within your field that you're going to study, or even the career choice that you've chosen, you're going to come across a lot of different red flags and a lot of different things. But one of the big things is gauging those levels of interpretation so that you're able to make changes as you're going along in that workplace. You don't want to go in and pretty much change everything all on the first day, because again, that can lead to you getting fired. So in addition to that, you're also looking at what things can get you fired. And we're looking at being late, stuff, all these different aspects that can get you fired. And that's one of the things you're always looking at is what skill sets do I need in regards to make sure and ensure that I keep my job. And I think that's one of the big things is I used to oversee a lot of interns. And when I would oversee interns, you had a lot of different interns that would, one, they felt like they did not need to be told in terms of what direction to go in, everything else. And so you have those different red flags that you came across. And one of the big things you're always looking at is what role am I playing in this given career choice? What role am I doing? And within that, also learning your level of, and again, one of the things you're always looking at is chain of command. And a lot of individuals feel like the chain of command is ridiculous. But again, that's one of the big things that every individual, whether you're in a workplace or whether you're in any environment, there is always going to be a level of chain of command that's within the workplace itself. So don't misinterpret that. So that's one of the big things you're looking at is feasibility. And within that, you're primarily trying to work within that chain of command. And I met a lot of interns that initially had no respect for the chain of command, and that's one of the big things is I've had to let some interns go in regards to that level of understanding that. This is within the workplace, not within the educational field. But that's one of the big things that we're always looking at is what skill set are you learning? And I think that's one of the big things we're always looking at. So in regards to the postings, so again, they're due by midnight every Friday. I do look at the due dates because again, when you submit a posting, it timestamps it. It timestamps it within that. So I urge you each to make sure that you look at when the due date is. If you look at the syllabus, it does have a rundown. So August 23rd, that's when the initial posting is due. Initial meaning that's your posting. And then August 27th is response. August 30th, initial. September 3rd, response. September 6th, initial. September 10th, response. September 13th, initial. September 17th, response. And the reason why I'm very keen on, in regards to the discussion questions, if you notice, there are no, it does indicate in your syllabus that there is no exam. So again, that's the reason why I'm looking at you as an individual to set aside time to get all of that done. That's one of the big things you're always looking at, is making sure that you get them done in a timely manner. Again, some individuals have said, can I get extra credit? Can I do all this? Again, if you miss the due date, again, you get a zero. That's one of the big things I always look at. Late postings response will receive a zero. But overall, that's one of the big things I'm always looking at is, um, again, looking at the responsibility level. I know you guys are all taking other classes and everything else, but if you look at the whole layout of this whole course, I would say it's primarily very, how would you call it, laid back. But again, I also want to ensure that you're also putting in that effort in regards to the course itself. And in regards to the late assignments, Career Pathways exercise will lose 10% if submitted late after the due date, and will continue to lose 10% every day until the assignment is submitted. So within that, the Career Pathways, if you look at that, let's see, Career Pathway, where am I at? Bear with me, bear with me. Okay, okay. I'm getting lost in my own grading rubric. Okay. So the career pathways, they're each worth 30 points. So you have three of them. So within that, 10% of 30 is, you have a given, so you're going to begin to lose points very quickly if you submit it late. And that's one of the big things I'm always looking at, is making sure that you get it done, even if you can get it done now. Because again, when we start reaching up to the end, it gets pretty hectic. So you have the first career pathway due October 8th. And it seems like a long way off, September, October. We already are into day 11 of September. And then you have career pathway due October 15th, career pathway due October 22nd. And then you have the graduate school application due. Again, one of the things with that, I just try to urge you to get that done as quickly as possible. The second graduate school application due, and that's where you would either do a screenshot or initial outlook of saying, I did submit this and I did fill it out and everything else, because one, you're kind of getting the understanding of what the application process is. In addition to that, you also have the cover letter, letter of intent, and resume due November 12th. And the continuing education, I think there was some confusion on that. So one of the big things that I'm looking at, if you look at it, continuing education portion, the effort is on choosing one or more within the continuing education portion so as to garner the full 30 points. So the example, for example, I put an example, first aid, CPR, as well as AED would fill a continuing education number for the full 30 points. The reason why is you have three different things that you're covering: first aid, CPR, and AED. So initially that would cover the whole 30 points. But subsequently you have others. You have food handlers training, and that's only worth 15 points because, one, you have to add an additional certificate. And again, I did send out an email a while back that did highlight that you can also get additional certificates for attending webinars. And that's where I did give a link. The link is over in your, let's see, Essentials? I think it's Essentials. Hold on, bear with me. Yes, it's in your Essentials tab. So you go there, you have the CSER committee trainings, things that are popping up. You have the Ganado CPR first aid training flyer, and you also have the online training certificates. You go there, and within that, you're going to go to that website, and within that website, you're going to register everything else, and that's where you can get an additional certificate. So you have your food handlers, and then you have that other certificate. That equals 30 points. And I think that's where a lot of individuals are kind of getting confused on. Because some are saying, why is that happening? Why everything else? Why am I only getting 15 points for this? Or, why am I not getting the full 30? The reason why is, if you look at it, I'm trying to urge you to get additional certificates in different areas so that, one, it can look good on your resume. That's one of the big things I'm always looking at, is ensuring that your resume looks amazing. Because again, I've come across individuals whose resume is very sparse. And that's amazing. That's great. But I would like additional certificates in different areas. That's one of the big things is you're going to be an expert in any field that you choose. And that's one of the big things you're looking at is I'm trying to urge you to be an expert in different fields so that you're able to say, I know this, I have this knowledge, I have this base knowledge, I have this perspective, and within that, hire me. And that's one of the things you're also looking at. And so that's the reason why I'm looking at the different aspects within that. Again, if you have so the first one, I guess, not guess, but that's one of the things is the first aid CPR and AED primarily works as a whole 30 points. But after that, you have others that kind of go into that. So if you have your background check, I would urge you to also get, say, for example, your food handler. So then it would combine with those two, and you would have 30 points. And I hope that makes sense. In addition to that, there was another issue that was brought up in regards to OSHA training and everything else. One of the big things I'm always looking at is you're not always going to work in a government setting, or you're not always going to work in different settings. So that's the reason why I kind of have it, I left it up to you, the individual, to search out trainings yourself as well that will coincide to something that you want to go into. So one of the big things that I would urge you to do, if, say, for example, you're looking at a certain field of study or a certain workplace environment, look at their criterias. Look at things that they would like you to have before you start working. And that's one of the big things is, again, they all vary. I worked with nonprofits, and nonprofits, all they needed was food handlers, background check, and I believe it was a recommendation. And within that, that was the only three things they need, and that was working with domestic violence, sexual assaults. And the background check is primarily just to make sure that you're not a sex offender or anything else, or if you don't have any levels of battering and everything else towards a partner. And so that was one of the things that I looked at. So when we would bring in interns, that was one of the things we're always looking and urging them to get before they started. But as time progressed, also if they did find an internship and we were primarily there to offer that internship, we would do additional trainings with them, and they would put that on their resume as they were going along as well. You also have different trainings. I'm primarily sure you have different trainings within your region. That's one of the big things that we're always looking at is, or I'm always looking at is, you have, because again, not every location is going to be, it's not going to always span to every location. So again, this course is primarily trying to do initial perspective outlook. I guess that's the best way I can put it, so that you're able to implement it within whatever field of study that, or whatever career choice that you're going to choose. And that's one of the things you're always looking at is pliability and malleability, because you don't want to just simply say, okay, this is my mindset, and I'm only going to stick with this, and that is the only thing. Because if you notice, psychology kind of spans so many different job locations and job career choices. And so within that is one of the big things I'm always looking at. In addition to that, I'm hoping most of you have the book. If you don't, one of the things I'm looking at is initially just putting the whole subsequent chapters. The reason I think that's one of the big things is if you bought the book, great, then you have it as a resource. But in addition to that, I will just post chapters 4, 5, and 6 on Blackboard. And I know some of you guys are probably going to be upset and saying, I should have known this before. Again, it's primarily just a judgment call as we're going along. Because even within this, and I tried to urge a lot of individuals, if you can just rent the book from Amazon. It's only, I believe, let me look at it really quickly. If you rent the book, you have it through March 9th, 2020. And the price is $29.99, and you rent it, you have it, you can read it constantly. That's one of the big things they kept urging. But again, there were some issues. Within that, I'm trying to make this course as, how would you call it, user-friendly as possible. And I think that's one of the big things we're always looking at is it primarily was a judgment call on my part. So within that, I'll post them on Blackboard. So if you will go into Blackboard, so I should have it up by hopefully tomorrow. chapters 4, 5, and 6. So then it'll be there. Again, it's going to be a ping file because it's a lot easier to do that versus having to put it to a cut and paste and everything else. And also the readability is not that great. So with a ping file, it's a lot more clear. But if anybody has any questions, please email me. Again, if you are on campus, Saley campus, I am here. I try to be here every day, but my office hours are on Mondays from 1 to 2, and then on Tuesdays from 1 to 4, and then on Wednesdays I'm here from 1 to 2 again. But primarily all throughout the week. Also, if you want to meet or discuss different issues that you're having, or even just career explorations and everything else, and questions that you may have, and you're on campus, Saley campus, and you see me out and about, the guy with the hat. But within that, if you have any questions, you can stop me and everything else and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with and everything else. What can I anticipate in the field that I'm studying, everything else, and we'll explore that. So within that, I am a resource within that. So again, make sure that you get your discussion questions in. So I think that covers it for today. And so I'm posting these to YouTube. So I will send out a link to everybody to ensure that you all get the link within that. So it makes it a lot easier versus trying to upload it through Blackboard, because I've had issues with Blackboard where I've tried to upload these videos, and within that it's not uploading. So it's better just to go through the YouTube route. So within that, you'll find me there. But other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, or if you see me out and about, you can stop me and say, hey, you know what, this is what I'm going through. Everything else. So hopefully that helps. So have an awesome week. So again, we're into week 4. So so we're moving along. Have a good day. Be awesome and be productive and everything else. All right. I am out.